The Daily Code Snippet. Last week, we were introduced to two new properties, background position and background size. The background position property sets the initial position for each background image. In order to grasp background position, we also have to define background origin and background attachment. The background origin property sets whether the background's origin is relative to the border box, relative to the padding box, or relative to the content box. The default is from the padding box. The property accepts the global values of inherit, initial, revert, and unset, which have been described previously, but otherwise has the following values: background origin, border box, background origin, padding box, and background origin, content box. Note: the background origin property will be ignored if the background attachment is fixed, and we will review this in the next episode. Let's look at some examples. This is the HTML with which we are working. In section 1, we will demonstrate background origin as border box. In section 2, we will demonstrate background origin as padding box, and in section 3, we will demonstrate background origin as content box. In each section, we have created a div with a unique ID to target with our CSS. Let's look at the CSS for the first example, border box. Keep in mind, in order for you to visualize the difference between border box and padding box, we have to exaggerate the values, and none of these things are what you would ever want to do from a design perspective. With border box, the image will be positioned at the outer edge of the border. We will be keeping certain variables the same. We will keep the height, our border, padding, background color, background repeat, and the image we're loading the same from example to example. And in addition, we have cropped our Lake Thomas image to be smaller so that it is easy to visually see what's going on. This is how it would display. With padding box, the image will be positioned at the inner edge of the border, and it would look like this. And finally, because we have added 50 pixels of padding using the content box, we'll have the image begin where the content is inset because of the padding. See the result here. You can also use this property with gradients that we just learned about. Here is the HTML, and here is the CSS. In this example, we are combining a linear gradient that will begin at the inner edge of the padding and a radial gradient in the content box. We are indicating the colors using a color system that we have not yet gone over in depth, the RGBA system. Primarily, it's because we are setting a less than 100% opacity for our linear gradient to help our radial gradient show through. You specify the amount of red, green, and blue colors first, and then the last number is A, which stands for opacity. Any value less than 1 is less than opaque. This is how this would display. Next, we will discuss background attachment. The background attachment property determines if a background image's position is fixed in the viewport or if it scrolls within its container. In addition to the global values of inherit, initial, revert, and unset, background attachment has the following values: background attachment scroll, background attachment fixed, and background attachment local. With fixed, the background is fixed relative to viewport. Even if the element is scrolling, the background will not move within the element. Local means the background is fixed relative to the contents of the element. With scroll, the background is fixed relative to the containing element and will not scroll with the contents. Here are examples. We have modified our previous example that showed hero and full width images. We will instead show the difference in behavior between scroll, fixed, and local by making code modifications to our full width images. Here is the HTML for the 3 relevant sections. We will be loading a background image into each section, targeting a particular class attribute for each. For section 2, we will demo fixed. For section 4, we will demo scroll. And finally, for section 6, we will demo local. The placeholder text has been truncated for sections 2 and 6. In these sections, to demonstrate the difference between fixed and local, we add a paragraph text element that overflows the element dimensions. Here is the CSS when using a fixed background attachment. We will keep many of the other properties the same from example to example, like the height, background color, background position, background size, and background repeat. You can see that the image stays in place in the background even as we scroll both the full page content and the text element within section 2. Here is the CSS when using scroll for background attachment. Here we have added some padding and changed the text color to white so it is easier to see. You can see that the image scrolls with the contents of the page. This is the default for background attachment. Here is the CSS for using local for background attachment. It was an addition with CSS 3. The background image will scroll with the page, but when scrolling the text within section 6, the background remains fixed. Presented by Designers Learn Code.